That item was not specifically related to the health and fitness event, but it was something that was more about talking about children's special event type programs and what kind of people in that way forward
I think we figured out we can work with Tara on putting together, Mr. Clark and Tara are going to work together and put together an ordinance for special events and collections of monies that may be due to the services that we provide. Good? Okay.
There was a question on one of the items that was in executive session, or whether it was properly in executive session. What we discussed in executive session was, in my opinion, concerning an ordinance to address special events and things like that. It wasn't about a specific event or the fact related to that event.
Either event or bills attached to it. One of my questions was, should we be billing for that? And under legal advice, it's something that we probably can't do post. But because of that concern, we're now going to address it by writing ordinances and making sure the public is protected in the future so that events like this, these large events, don't cost the taxpayers directly. Unfortunately, it's a legal matter.
Are we ready? The first order of business is the proclamation of Montecado of Highlands. So if you'd like to come on up. And who's going to take pictures?
Montecado has continued his racing career and found success. We have a little something for Valerie, because I don't even like that my stepdaughter has her permit, and you let your son drive race cars, so. I don't like it, you know. Thank you so much. You can be a big round of applause.
Take care, thank you.
Or anything else with the consent agenda?
Mrs. Wells, I will ask you to pull out the September 16 minutes.
Okay, the September 16 minutes.
Just to,
Okay, table? Okay, that's fine. Okay. Anything else? May I get a motion on the consent agenda? I'll make that motion.
offered by Ms. Ryan.
Can you guys speak up? It's a little hard to hear back here.
Yes.
Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Ms. Wells?
Yes.
Leads us to other resolutions. Resolution R-15-192, a resolution amending professional planning services.
I'm gonna let Tina, if you wanna just give a brief update on this?
Basically, it's my understanding, I don't attend the planning board, it's my understanding that there was additional work that the planning board had requested for the master plan, additional meetings and some more documentation for the board and the HPP. So it's basically an event that the original contract, it adds to those extra meetings and the additional docs that they're.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Dale? Fine, thank you. Okay, may I get an offer on R-15-192? I'll make that motion.
Offered by Ms. Ryan.
Is there a second?
Second by Mr. Carr.
No, I'm not
You
saying.
said no. I'll second it.
Second by Ms. Wells. Mr. Carr?
No.
Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mrs. Wells?
Yes.
Motion carries. Resolution R-15-199, resolution appointing zoning board member.
I believe we're gonna hold it this right now because Frank, he was supposed to be in contact. And that would also be for planning, because those are his appointments. So, yes.
Resolution R-15-200, resolution authorizing tax settlement agreement. We're going to table that. The next meeting. Can I get a motion to table to the next meeting?
So moved.
Offered by Ms. Wells. Second by Mr. Park. Mr. Park?
Yes.
Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mrs. Wells?
Yes.
Resolution R-15-201, resolution supporting flood officers, letter. I believe this also needs to be tabled. Can I get a motion?
Is this also being tabled?
Yes.
Yes, I'll make the motion.
Offered by Ms. Wells. Second by Mr. Park. Mr. Park?
Yes.
Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mrs. Wells?
Yes.
Resolution R-15-203, resolution approving event, and that should be titled on the agenda. It should be the Veterans Park. This is for the American Legion to do a pumpkin patch for the children on October 25th. Offered by Mr. Park.
I'll second it.
Second by Ms. Wells. Mr. Park?
Yes.
Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mrs. Wells?
Yes.
Resolution R-15-204, resolution amending the Highlands Business Partnership Social Affairs Committee, October 5th, 2017.
All approved.
Offered by Mr. Park.
I'll second it.
Second by Ms. Wells. Mr. Park?
Yes.
Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mrs. Wells?
Yes.
Resolution R-15-205, resolution granting a veteran's tax reduction.
I'll offer this.
Offered by Ms. Ryan.
Second.
Second by Mr. Park. Mr. Park?
Yes.
Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mrs. Wells?
Yes.
Resolution R-15-206, resolution authorizing the cancellation of property taxes that coincides with the resolution we just adopted.
I will offer that.
Offered by Ms. Ryan.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Carr. Mr. Park?
Yes.
Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mrs. Wells?
Yes.
Next is in the reports, we have finance, Mr. Sarver.
Yes. Pat?
Okay, we have finance update for taxes and tax liens. The tax sale is scheduled to take place December 1st, and added tax bills are scheduled to be mailed out next week. For the MCIA, the Monmouth County Improvement Authority is having their closing for bonds and notes at the end of this month, and we have a couple of pieces of equipment that we will be eligible to buy through that program. We have a best practice checkoff list. That's a state-issued guidelines that we have to complete this survey of about 50 questions. I've been in touch with the administrator. We completed it last year. The deadline's October 16th. We no problem doing it again this year. If you don't meet a certain criteria, they hold back your aid. No aid was held back last year, so we should be fine there. And in this 2016 municipal budget, we distributed a preliminary schedule to the budget committee. And our first meeting's scheduled to take place October 28th. So that would be concerning issues on the 2016 budget. And that's it.
Okay. Public safety, Chief Lewitt.
I submitted my report today. I apologize, it's not with the agenda for
I
tonight.
didn't get
I assume it'll be on the website.
it. No, I put on in a minute, except you didn't put on the,
Correct.
I put the minutes on.
All right,
Okay, fire department, Chief Wells.
I submitted my report to Debbie Galley today, but for the month of September, we had 20 calls. Two of the major calls, we had a man trapped under a car up on Portland Road. They used the tools to lift it off of him. He was transported to Jersey Shore by the squad. The 27th, we responded to a structure fire at 11 Highlands. The fire police are very busy. The fire police they worked Eaton Town on the 7th for their Labor Day run. They worked in Highlands on the 13th for the veteran bubble palooza thing. Kitten Falls on the 26th for their wet down. And then the 27th, they worked in Highlands for the 40th annual Seabright Field Day and the Bike New York race. They were bouncing back and forth, directing traffic up at the out for the Bike New York race. Also this month, the Highlands Fire Department partook in the 40th anniversary for Seabright Field Day. We're one of the 7 original companies that started 40 years ago, and we finished in first place. Seabright normally holds that, and since the Sandy, we've tried to get it to go out to other towns, but it seems like nobody else really wants to do it.
So they put in a really nice parking lot and things that you have to jump over.
Doesn't
That's the
not
problem.
used for running hoses and stuff.
So kind of put a hamper on it.
But they are looking to try and get into another town next year, kind of
Move it
pass it
around.
around and stuff like that. So, thank you to Henry Hudson for allowing us to use the parking lot that morning. Last night we trained at the Daniel Barton Park down in Veterans Park, and Bill Burke from the where the Indians play. He got the pictures to Daniel Barton's parents that we were training down there. Instead of having to build an elaborate Mayday advanced SCBA system, believe it or not, the school ground is the perfect thing for us. It's small, tight quarters. It makes the guys have to do a lot of stuff that they don't normally have to do. We do that twice a year. So last night was we did that down there. Took some pictures and we sent it to the FNBA and all that stuff last night. October 15th, we're having a fundraiser at the firehouse. It's called Paint and Sip. Anybody that's an artist or not an artist, you're more than welcome to come down. Basically, it's kind of a new thing. They had one at St. Mary's last night. It got canceled because there was a fire inside St. Mary's. Ironically, the venue actually caught fire last night. But it's a good fundraiser. I believe the tickets are $45, and it's limited to 60 seats. I believe there's only 20 tickets left. Right?
Yeah, we've sold about 40. So. Anything else? All right, thank you. Okay. Administration?
Yeah, Department of Public Works was really busy this month with the onset of the storm as well towards the end of the month, but they did do brush pickup in September. We will have brush pickup October, November, and December as per the ordinance by zone. Leaf pickups as well. We do notice that there were some tree damage during the storm, but we're seeing a lot more that doesn't seem to be tree damage. It was just folks, I guess, deciding to cut down some stuff and put it at the curb line. We ask if you're going to do that when it's not pickup time, that you refrain from blocking the gutter areas and things like that, or at least notify us, because it does become a problem and it does get into our system. So there are reports of that happening in a couple different areas. They did assist with various special events during September, and they also were very active in assisting with storm prep during the week of September 30th. Building and Housing, the construction office had 36 new permits, 11 updates, 81 technical subcode inspections. Fees generated for the month were $31,382. The approximate cost of construction as per the permits was about $1.04 million in improvements that were done according to the permits that were filed. Code enforcement and property maintenance, as everyone knows or may not know, one of our part-time property maintenance officials tendered her resignation,
and we will be filling that position, hopefully in the future with a full-time position. In the meantime, 38 inspections were completed, 6 additional violations issued, and 12 summonses are pending in the courts for various violations. Under the zoning office, floodplain review had 10 approvals. Again, I use abbreviation, 4 LOCs.
Letter of compliance.
Letter of compliance. I knew I shouldn't have abbreviated that. And 1 conceptual letter for map revision. In addition, there was 12 zoning approvals. Mr. Wells did touch base on the fire department. OEM, I know the OEM office was very, very busy within the last week of the September going into this week. They did conduct emergency preparedness operations in advance of Joaquin. Briefings were held daily. I know they were in contact continually with the county and the state officials, and we were on various conference calls with multiple utility companies and the like to keep us informed. We always know that we're pretty fortunate, but we do know that we had localized flooding in different areas. And it's ironic that the press asked me the other day, well, how do you feel about dodging the bullet? And I said, well, we feel good, but there's always someone that wasn't as fortunate. So we always got to remember, we do take care of ourselves, but this event, unfortunately, did have catastrophic impacts in other areas of the state, United States. So we're happy that we were prepared to the extent we could be. First aid reported for August and September, 72 calls were answered, 350 manpower hours during those 2 months. They did provide various standby service for special events in town, and they did take precautions as well for Hurricane Joaquin. Recreation Department, Kids on the Move, which is the afternoon program, it is being held currently here at the elementary school. There are 28 children registered as of earlier this week. That program will run from September through June with hopes of returning to the community center once that's completed. Flu shots are tomorrow. I don't know if anyone's in line for their flu shot, but we are hosting flu shot clinic at the TAC Towers from 10 to 11 a.m. They used to have a call-in registration in advance, but I don't believe so at this point. So if you need to have your flu or pneumonia shot, you can go to the TAC Towers. There may be a slight wait, but it's between 10 and 11. The cost for non-Medicare eligible participants is $30 for flu shots and $85 for a pneumonia clinic. The health department or the health commission does not have an agreement to accept insurances other than Medicare. So if you can go get it at the pharmacy or somewhere else, lesser cost, I don't blame you on that. High school teen nights are set for grades 9 through 12, starting October 9th, and they will be held throughout the year, pretty much primarily here at the elementary school. Halloween costume contest is slated for Friday, October 30th at 3:30 p.m. at the field up here at the elementary school. Under administration, we are continuing to work with our professionals. We're still working on municipal facilities with the state OEM and FEMA reps in regards to all various projects that are still going on in town. We also are working, again, with a lot of the community groups that have come forward requesting use of our facilities, and we want to encourage that. And as was mentioned before, we are looking at some policy and ordinance changes probably down the road. Various meetings in August, should have been actually September, were held with our municipal JIF, the state OEM, T&M Associates, Santorini Construction on the projects, and various contractors that are working on projects in town. I do want to really thank the OEM, Mr. Parker, Mr. Wells, Chief Blewett, all the volunteers who did prepare for the storm. I do thank the council, the mayor and council particularly too. They did call in and ask if there was anything that they could do to help out with any of our concerns, and everybody showed support. We do know, again, localized flooding and tree damages were of concern. The website, I just want to report, the website proposals that were received, they're under review. There was a lot of technical information that came in on the website proposals, and they weren't, I'm not an expert in the website field, but there was a lot of differences in the different proposals that were submitted. So we're going to take a relook at them, and then the committee's going to convene. I don't want to say who. We're going to ask the committee to probably take a hard look and see if there's anything that they see that is of concern or possible improvements that could be made. So we are working on that. I know the tilt-up project is a project that will be mentioned in public. I do want to state right now that the project is not complete. They are going to be finishing off the buffing of the structure, color coding the underside of the roof structure, waterproofing of the roof, and filling of the imperfections and items that happened. Final in-kind cost report will be furnished to the borough upon completion. The estimates right now are this project, all based on in-kind donated services, and it's in excess of $500,000. They will provide a specific cost to us. We are not paying any of that cost. It's all donated and in-kind services that were provided, and I'm sure we'll touch on that a little bit later. I would like to acknowledge, though, the concerns that were voiced by members of the public. I understand the concerns about the project. I do take responsibility for the communications or some of the lack of as brought forward. I do want to assure everyone of this. This project was in the planning stages over a year ago. The Tilt-Up Concrete Company or Association did approach the borough about doing a Sandy Memorial in the Bay Shore somewhere. They did come to Highlands, and the governing body at the time in January did do a simple resolution of support of the project. As the project moved forward, I understand that there's concerns of how it moved forward. I do ask that folks do give it a chance. I understand some of the issues. Residents of the area that spoke to me directly, and that there were 6, I can tell you that 6 residents directly came to me with their concerns. I did express, my feedback to them. The biggest concern that was initially voiced was they thought they were putting a roadway and a basketball court on the Waterwitch Beach. When I assured those residents that it was temporary, that the facility would be returned to its state, I'm not going to say that they were happy with that, but they understood, and those were the concerns that came to me initially. Upon that, I'm sure there'll be more discussion later. Additional information has been requested through various forms. There's also, unfortunately, and I think I can say this, there's been allegations of some issues that will be addressed, and there's certain members of the council that won't be able to comment because of some allegations that have been made. So on that note, we'll talk about it further in public, but we'll go along with that. Thank you.
All done, Mr. Hill?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, does anybody have anything, Mr. Hill?
Yeah, I'd like to know what allegations. No.
Yeah, I have been accused in writing of willfully breaking and obstructing the law and of lining my pockets through this project. So that is slander, and on the advice of my attorneys, I'm not speaking on this. I will turn over all materials that have been requested if my attorneys agree.
Thank you for sharing that.
Okay, Tara, Board of Education?
Yes. Let's see, this is all for Highlands Elementary School, the school that we're sitting in. This is the week of respect, so there are many lessons going around about this. It is also anti-bullying month, and there will be lessons all throughout the month about that. On the 23rd, PTO is going to have a trunk or treat, where the parents come and they have their candies and gifts, so the children are not going out in the community after dark. They will have their trick or treat up here, right in the parking lot. They did that last year, and it was really, really popular, and that will take place directly after school, around 3 o'clock. And on the 30th, as Tim already mentioned, there is the Halloween costume parade, and that's at 3 p.m., and I know that I'll be here to watch that. It was one of the first things that I saw, so 20 years ago when I came here, and I wasn't even aware of the programs that we do, and I saw all these little kids. At that time, they did it from the community center along to Borough Hall, and it was great. So if anyone's available, 3 p.m. on that day, I recommend you come. Now, there hasn't been a meeting of Henry Hudson yet. That's
further in the month, so I don't have minutes from that, but Rosemary, if you'd like to add
Yeah, if you
anything.
like
The only thing that we both have is results from the strategic plan for the 3 schools is going to be next October 17th at 7 o'clock at Henry Hudson. And that's
No,
the,
it's-
is that, no, it's not the week, no, it's next Wednesday. Give me 1 second. I will-
Next Wednesday,
Next
sorry.
Wednesday, whatever that date is.
14.
Okay, sorry.
14.
The 17th, if you want to show up, the result will have already been
Posted for you, you don't have to commit.
But it's what, we're going to then move on, and we are waiting for the feasibility study that's being done by the state. The state took on that cost, so the 2 towns didn't, 3 districts didn't have to expend any money to see what our future is and whether we can possibly become a K-12 district. So,
That's
our
great.
plans and what our process for the upcoming 5 years. We have 5 years, we have individual and the tri-district strategic plan.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nina?
At Board of Education Convention at Atlantic City,
Oh, yes.
the 3 boards will be presenting this whole process to the entire convention.
Which
So,
is actually a
so-
big deal that we've been invited to do. It will be the 3 presidents, the superintendent, 3 principals, and the standoff institution.
Director of Curriculum.
Yes. So,
And I'll be there too.
Yes.
Awesome, thank you.
so we will have a panel, and the only schools in the Board of Education in the state to be asking us questions. They're using us as a model for the state, since we have already combined so many of our services, and we're trying to actually, to save the taxpayers money, become a K-12 district, and see if it's actually possible to do. There is one issue, which we have to see how that will be worked out, and I will tell you, it's taking on the financial debt of Atlantic Highlands, but they're going to see in the long run, is it worth it for us to do? So,
And actually, if you, after your convention, if you're able to supply us with the presentation, I don't know, the slides or whatever, just so we can read it.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah, if you could email it over to Carol and she can disseminate it to the council, that'd be great. Okay? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can that go on the website?
it will be, there's a tri-district website that actually funnels to the 3 schools, and the 3 schools funnel back to this tri-district. It will be on that, and then we can see if it can be posted.
Yeah, we can
Probably
copy that.
post on the borough website.
Okay. Carla, Highlands Business Partnership.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't get to email it either with the hurricane scare, so I have to try to read it from my phone.
All right, top 5 points.
For the Marketing and Events Committee, the 21st Annual Farmers Market will continue until October 31st. I know in the past I've reported on the 21st Annual Clam Fest, but we hadn't had all the expenses paid. So again, we thank the borough for their cooperation, and the total income was $70,362. Total expenses, $45,950.63, with a profit of $24,411.37. The 14th Annual Twin Lakes Ride is held on Sunday, September 27th. There was a total of 28 pre-registered cyclists, only of which
2,800.
yeah, 2,800.
28.
28, sorry, I can't
There are a lot more than that there.
but only of which 2479 showed, and then another 269 registered that day. We also added a new 15-mile route out to Sandy Hook and back. There was, restaurants out in the park and plenty of entertainment, relaxation. We had a few parking problems that were brought to my attention, I believe, which we have a solution in place for next year, maybe in front of the church and some of the places on Bay Avenue, a 2 or 3 hour parking, because we have a little bit of a problem with the overflow at C Street. I spoke to C Street, so we have a plan in place for next year. There was also a boat problem where they couldn't take the last charter over, and they had to leave people there, thus causing more cars. So we have a little bit of a parking problem that we're already working on for next year. For the Fall into Highlands, it's a campaign to extend our season for local businesses, working with C Street, having Oktoberfest day trips from Manhattan through every Saturday and Sunday through October 31st, organize some of our local businesses to the event, and craft vendors. It's open from noon to 4:30. Then after the event, there's a shuttle available. We're doing a promotion, a map, similar to Take the Highlands, and C Street's providing a shuttle, and for people that want to stay in town. And there's fall specials at 10 establishments from 4 to 7 p.m. And it's also open to the public, of course, so anybody can attend. We hope to see people there. The 15th annual Oktoberfest, as everybody knows, was rescheduled due to the Northeastern hurricane warning. It will be scheduled for October 17th, 1 to 6 p.m. We advertised the change in the APP, Facebook, online media, an updated press release. We will also quote it in the Wall Street Journal. And as always, we need volunteers, so please send us an email or phone call. The first annual Zombie Parade and Pub Crawl is going to take place on October 24th. Makeup artists are going to be available 10 a.m. There's a DJ that will be in Putty Park during that period. There'll also be a best costume contest in Veterans Park after the parade. There'll be a performance by the New Jersey Zombie Walk Thriller Dance Team. To follow parade activities, there'll be the Zombie Pub Crawl. For more information, go to the website. Visual Improvement Committee. Muralist Jim Kovic is in the final phase of completing the postcards. He recently had an injury and was in a cast, so he wasn't able to work on the project. We finally connected, and hopefully we'll be completed with that within the next 30 days. We had the groundbreaking for the Street-scape project. As everybody knows, I'm very excited. The work is continuing, communicating with the borough along Bay Avenue. The Veterans Park Boardwalk under the Economic Development Committee. Project meeting was held with Tim Hill, Councilman Carr, the vendor, Robbie Harold from the fence, the railings, Ken Braswell, myself, and HPP staff to discuss the outstanding issues. The project should be completed within 30 days. I don't know if you want to add anything.
Well, you might as well just hash it out now, because it's number 4 under other business, so why don't you just do it together?
I've Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we had a great meeting last night, just the final details that we had to deal with, ADA compliant with the tow kick. Barry from Tri-Bar is on board, and going to be taking care of a lot of the circle sidewalk with concrete. If you walk down there, you can see a lot of blue markouts of concrete that's going to be replaced. He's scheduling his staff to do that. We are going to need a screw down party for decking, so volunteers will be requesting for that when the time comes. Otherwise, I think it's going well. I know the electrical, Dale, is dealing with that where they can. We're real close. I think probably within 30 days we'll be pretty tight. That's about it, I think.
Okay. It was a very good meeting, very productive. I feel really confident that it's going to be.
Anything else?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Alrighty. Under shared services, there really isn't much to report. I don't know if we're going to talk. Basically, the one item we were working on was Seabright. We're just going to reach out to them because we need to kind of get a feel. And that was in regards to some shared services for DPW space. So we just need to get a feel which way they're going so we can get a feel which way we're going. If they're interested, then we have some decisions to make. And if they're not interested, we also have some decisions to make. But we want to make sure that we're working and really trying to close out these project worksheets for FEMA and stuff like that. So
Yeah, we're also, Rebecca, we're working on our sewer plant operations for the pump station. Initially, it was a 22-month, and boy, 22 months have flown by pretty quickly. So
I see Mr. Francie in the audience, he remembers those days, but we're coming upon a expiration at the end of the year, so we're going to have a draft, and Mr. Carter will be involved with that as well. But we're going to get started on that. I think the shared service has been going extremely well, and we'll get the draft back, and we'll get that ironed out before the end of the year.
Dale asked to be added as number 7 under engineering.
Just two quick updates and things. One, the half demolition program through FEMA. Basically, this is the last call. All right, we're shutting the solicitation down a week from Friday. So if you've submitted already, thank you. If you've been cooperating with us to get photos and access to your house, we appreciate that. Anybody who's done that so far, their items have already been sent on to New Jersey OEM, but we're still accepting applications through next Friday. So if anybody knows of anybody or has any questions, whatever, please, you can get a hold of Mr. Hill or Ms. Cummins to give you my information, or come see me down at 19 Bay. I'm there 12 to 4 on Tuesdays, 4 to 8 on Thursdays. But yeah, if there's any more interest in this, please let us know. We think the program would be a benefit to the community. And, you know, like I said, next Friday is the deadline for that. The other item I want to mention is, I mentioned the last council meeting, is the DOT applications are due October 20th. So if we want to pick a road, we have to do it pretty much tonight. I have a couple thoughts in mind. I mean, the first one that comes to mind, obviously, is Bay Street. But I don't think it's going to pass the muster of the criteria with DOT for tying into highways or main thoroughfares. I can certainly apply for it, but like I said, I don't think that would be a good application that they approve. Another one I'm thinking was maybe a portion of Portland Road, going up, from the highway going up. And then another one would be Miller Street. DOT has funded Miller Street 3 different occasions. So we continue on with that. Last year they funded that, the short block between Bay and Shore. We can certainly go on the water side of Bay and continue on with that if you'd like. But we need to, if you're interested in doing it, we need to pick something to move forward with so we get the application prepared and into that.
Just for clarity, DOT, if the revert, what's the match on that? We have to come up with some funding.
You have to come up with some funds on it. Basically, you submit the application with an estimate, and they come back, very rarely ever fund the entire thing. They always, they'll fund partial. The borough has been very successful in the past, anywhere from, I would say, from $80,000 to $250,000, depending on the size of the project.
My question to that would be then, can we afford $10,000 for any kind of reimbursement?
No,
I don't want to waste your time.
No, I understand. Well, that's why I wanted to throw it out to the council, just to let you know, if you're interested in it, fine. If you're not, that's okay too, but I didn't want you to miss it if you were interested in it, that's all.
And what's the deadline?
Excuse me, sorry.
Sorry.
No,
I probably do.
Do we get penalized if we don't put an application in for a year?
No, the only time you get penalized is if you get the money and don't spend it.
And what's the deadline?
October 20th, so I would need to know, I mean, you're talking, 2 weeks.
Yeah, okay.
What's the cost for you to prepare it?
It's under my retainer, it doesn't cost you any more than what you're paying me now.
Definitely.
If I may, I would definitely recommend any street or road funding that we can apply for, we need to. And I know costs we have to be cognizant of, but we all understand, where we're at. And if it doesn't cost us any more on the upfront end, and we're successful, we can then look at it that way as well.
Well, can I have Doug work with Dale to figure out the,
I would say Bay Street, why not? It's a shot in the dark. If you don't ask, you may, and we put it, word it correctly, maybe we could say public safety or something, and there we can work on getting that funding.
I can certainly, hit on the water issues up there and everything. We can try it. If you want, that's your call. I'll put in whatever application the council sees fit.
what about even North Street going down to the pump stations? I know they're not major thoroughways, but they're important. They're major for us when we have to get to certain areas.
North Street was funded by CD,
Okay.
partially funded, I should say, by community development. Being this late in the game, I don't know how DOT would even react to that, considering that the project is at the bid.
Right, okay.
But what side of North Street is that project?
That's the water side of the bay.
All right, so if you want to work, it could,
I'll be there first thing tomorrow morning. I don't know.
There's a lot of
We have to make a
streets,
decision
yeah.
by
There's a lot of
resolution or
streets
by
in
vote.
disrepair, it's just a matter of,
If council wants to put Mr. Carr in charge, I guess with Mr. Hill, and we can come up with a street, you know, if I can get that street by Friday, now, you know, at least give us
I really don't have a problem deferring to.
Yeah.
you know, at least give us a fighting chance to get something into that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we'll do it for sure.
Guess I'll be seeing you again tomorrow.
I'm like a recurring nightmare.
Anything else, Steph?
No, those are the two things I wanted to touch on, but thank you.
Okay. Well, that's all, we're gonna talk about that. Other.
Yeah, I've got the next couple of pairs.
Okay. All right, under other business, at this time, we're pulling the health and fitness event presentation. Mr. Korn was not able to attend tonight and asked to be rescheduled. But now we're right back to Dale.
We're right back to me again.
T&M Associates Grant Activity Payment Request.
So basically, since Sandy, we've had a Sandy number, I'll call it, open for grants related to Sandy. Grants have come out to help communities, so on and so forth. We're about 3 years past the storm now, and speaking with Mr. Hill and Ms. Gonzalez, we wanted to kind of move away from that. So the grant activity that we've done recently, we're moving out of that number and separating out. So what we did is there's two different parts of this. One is the NKEDA, which is the Street-scape, it's the Economic Development Authority. That was the $1.5 million grant that you received. All of our efforts under there for the paperwork involved, and Mr. Clark saw the paperwork firsthand. I mean, it's a deluge of paperwork almost on a daily basis. It's insane. But basically, that all gets reimbursed by the grant itself. Okay, so for that authorization, I'd say we spent about $6,500 so far. That's outstanding. I would say if I get 15, say, to move that forward into the end of the project, that would be helpful. Like I said, it would be that would be reimbursed under the grant. The other part of it is other grant activity that we've done with Millennium or assisting OEM, some of the stuff. We've spent $9,000 on that's outstanding. So I was going to say, if you want to put 15 of that, just as a safety net of another 6, if there's anything that comes up, obviously none of that gets spent unless it's requested and authorized. You know, so it would be sitting there. If we need something that we could help out with, we would do it. If not, that's fine too. But that's kind of where I am right now.
What could we possibly do, make a payment for what you've helped with Millennium and stuff like that, instead of keeping money there just in case?
Sure.
Because we do have a grant writer
Absolutely.
that we brought on board.
Whatever at this point, you know, whatever you want to do is
Right.
fine. You know, obviously, I mean, the stuff we've done already, we want to get
Right, well,
paid
that's,
for.
you know, my feeling is let's make, on the ones where you're assisting Millennium and work that's already been happening, you said that was about 9,000?
That line, right.
I don't have a problem squaring that up.
That's fine.
You know, as a go-forward basis.
Yep.
And then put the, I don't know how the bills
Yeah, we have to square up our bills.
go. Put the fair bills.
Right, and like I said, the EDA, I mean, there's paperwork that's constantly requested from the borough, from T&M, from the contractor. I mean, it's a deluge of paperwork that they go through. I mean, I don't even know how they keep up with it.
I
Keep
mean,
it straight.
EDA, I'm fine with the 15, knowing it's gonna be
It's
reimbursed under the
reimbursed.
grant. And we don't, you know how much paperwork goes into
Right.
getting this facilitated, so
Just
that's
so-
my motion, so.
So the public understands, it's the 1,500 is reimbursable, but you have to put it up front yet.
Correct.
I think it's important.
No, absolutely.
Okay.
Is that fair enough for everybody?
I have no issue with that. I mean, I appreciate that, just to, you know, to get the outstanding stuff paid. And then, you know, if there's something you need from us on, say, the other
Right.
side, you know, we'll talk about it. That's more than
Okay.
fine.
Yeah, can we do a resolution next meeting? Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. All right, streetscape costs for additional work. This was something I put on the agenda. I guess we can start, if you want to brief a little on the project, and then we can talk about the additional costs.
Right, so basically, the EDA grant was for economic development. So basically, it was Bay Avenue and Portsmouth Shore Drive to our two business districts downtown. So because of that, you have a gap in the project. There's a gap where the two business districts don't meet. So that area in between them isn't covered under this grant. And that's basically from, say, Washington to Valley. So, you know, the business partnership had requested that we put an estimate together, basically to see what it would cost to do that gap, what that gap would cost. Now, just to give you a little history on that, we did put in for a tap grant on that, a different funding source to get that money, and the borough was denied that money, but we did apply for it. So basically what I did is I used the current contractor that's doing the streetscape now, I took his unit prices and plugged it in, and I'll go to what I'll call the gap between Washington and Valley. And I broke it out on a block-by-block basis. So that's pretty much where we are right now.
Okay. And basically, taking that spreadsheet, what I did was I had Pat do a little analysis on really what it would mean to finish the project, basically if the town paid for it. And right now, the estimated project costs are a little over $800,000, $804,250 with, and this is all Pat's projections. There would be $160,850 in soft costs for a project total of $965,850. Okay, Pat projects just now, without giving too much insight into it, at 3.5% interest for 15 years, the total project cost would be $1,257,000. Okay, so basically, when you break that down, it's $83,786 for a payback of 15 years. So it would take 15 years to pay that back, and it would add approximately 1.4 cents to the tax rate, or about $34 to the average taxpayer for 15 years to finish the project. I just want to give people like a reality of, people go, oh, it's just this much, and if we want to finish it, we want to finish it in its entirety, like we're doing now, and we want everything to match. This is just the reality. So really, the council can go any way we'd like. I mean, funding is an issue now because we're dealing with the fact that we're still out of facilities. And it's something we want to.
Don't we have to put it out to bid though?
Oh, you have to.
You have, right. This is just something like what the contractor would come in at, just to give you a better understanding.
No, I understand. It's important that we just can't roll it into the project.
No, it's not it would be way too much.
Unfortunately,
Yeah. How, if we acted on it today, we probably wouldn't have the things, the sidewalks till the spring.
Right.
But, it's also another hit, financially right now when we don't have facilities yet. So it's kind of, it's a very big up in the air. I've heard a lot of grumblings that it's not totally completed. I myself personally am on the fence until we get facilities. And maybe as we get facilities, we can roll that project into the bond for the facility.
Is that a possibility?
It is a possibility, yes. Once we know what the costs are associated
Although,
with
of course,
getting
it
it
could be quite a while.
If we fix the zoning, can't we go back out for another grant?
Hold on.
If we fixed our zoning, could we go
I don't,
back out?
well, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's still time off, you know what I mean? We still haven't, it's not done yet. But let's stick to, I just want to have the council to have a discussion, just so we know. It's basically out there. It's food for thought. That's what it would cost.
Unfortunately, we're broke. I mean, let's cut the reality. We're broke, and as much as I would love to see it adapt and take advantage of the fact that we have a company on site doing it, more than likely they would probably bid on it. Let's face reality, a lot of these bidding companies, they know what they're doing. They're not going to step on each other's toes, but we may get another whole contractor in there, and the pricing might not be the same, too.
Well, yeah, you're talking at least.
Yeah, so it's a high-risk play. You don't have the money. I think your approach may delay a year or two and maybe see what will come up, tie it into some other funding.
So that's my thoughts is if we can add this to municipal building project and just adding to that bond because we're going to have to bond for that, whether it's a relocation or if it's fixed.
That's correct.
So it's just food for thought. I wanted the council to be abreast of what the actual numbers are because it does seem like short and small, but when you want to keep it in concert, obviously you want to do the same thing throughout. You don't want to mishmash. Those are basically rough estimates based off of Dale and Pat de Blasio.
I know that $34 per year does not seem really that much of an outrageous amount, but the way that our taxes are now, I really don't think that we should ask people to take that on. I think that we can wait a little bit and see if we can either find another separate grant or roll it into the bond issue as described. Doug, anything?
No,
Rick?
summed it up.
Okay. And I think we just have one last item that was coming out of executive session. Mr. Padula was going to give an update on the special counsel that has been in executive for a while.
Right, so that investigation has been completed, and the employees involved, the council is receiving a phase, the employees involved will receive formal notice.
All right, that public portion? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't write that down. Yeah, sorry. My apologies.
I requested this to be put on the agenda. Obviously, our community is gone through a situation. I have a lot of questions as a councilman, and then I also have a lot of questions forwarded to me by my constituents and the voters and the taxpayers and the stakeholders of this community. I have requested all the information extensively so I can vet it out and make sure things are done properly. Unfortunately, I'm not happy with some of the information I'm hearing already. I do have a question that I posed here tonight to the attorney on resolution 1545 in January, when we discussed it and I embraced the tilt-up project for exploratory. My question is, why wasn't the resolution rewritten or reflective of what was discussed? It was on record, audio recorded, it was discussed, we were all in agreement with non-binding, and then go from that point, when that resolution was discussed, why wasn't it rewritten on the legal merits? Well, I don't understand whose responsibility is to rewrite this if we discuss and it's not reflective of our resolution.
Well, the resolutions are prepared ahead of time. I don't recall the specific one. I do have a copy in front of me. I don't know if this was an add-on or not an add-on. But anyway, generally the resolutions are prepared ahead of time. So you have the text in front of you. If it wants to be changed, the council wants to change it, you make a motion to change the text of the resolution, and then you adopt it as amended, which we do frequently.
Right, and
if it's an add-on, you read the resolution in full, and then it's voted on. So I'm not sure which this one was, but I know it was, you introduced it was seconded by Ms. Kane, and then voted on unanimously.
Yes, and it was, and on the grounds that it was to be, again, my fault, my lesson learned. I probably should have requested it to be rewritten at that time because it was not what we discussed in a positive atmosphere of let's embrace this tilt-up organization and then go from that to what the resolution was written and the authority for them to build this. There was a process here. And again, I requested all the information so I could do my due diligence. I don't have that information yet. My fellow council members have to get this stuff to me. They're going to provide it, and I'll vet it out. But I think we have a procedural problem here, and I think we're in danger. Land use laws might have been violated. I think ethics violations might have been violated. I'm hoping I'm wrong, but I don't think that. And I think we've put this community at risk. We have private property owners, their property was damaged. They have every right to require compensation for their property being damaged if we did not do it properly, legally construction easements. But again, that might have all been done. I don't know. I was in the dark on this project. I know Mr. Hill in June read it in his administrative notes. Shame on me for not catching it when he said the tilt-up project's being built. It went from exploratory to being built with no communication to the public or to the people that live in that area. I think we owe the public some explanation here. And I'm hoping with the information that comes forth that I can give a reasonable explanation. But right now, the community's not happy about this project in any capacity. Don't fool yourself. That's my position.
Amen. Say outrage.
Well, I would say about, unfortunately, Carl, I spent probably 4 days dealing with constituent or voter or taxpayer, and then some of these taxpayers are not even voters in this community that were livid that this was done without no proper notification, no public hearing, all the gamut. Now, I took the heat, in all fairness to my fellow council members, I have an obligation to investigate it. I think procedurally, we're in trouble. And there are residents out there that are going to probably step up to the plate and take action. We need to prepare ourselves.
All right, anything else? No? Okay. I have no idea how to do this. Dan Hartsville? Oh, okay, hi Dan. 207 Bay Ave?
Yeah, I've never done this before.
That's okay, go ahead.
I gotta read from this here because there's a lot.
That's okay.
First, I'd like to thank you all for the opportunity to speak. Prefer to give a very special thanks to the Highlands Police Department and the first aides for their outstanding performance and the life-saving techniques that they used in all this. Because I had a problem and my heart stopped 3 times. I had to be in the hospital. They did an outstanding job. I don't know the officer's name. I just speak to Joe about it. Whether it will before it comes to the chief, so that maybe he gets a recognition for it. The second thing I have is another issue I want to bring to the board's attention. Numerous accounts that I feel that the Housing Authority has committed in regards to my opportunity to prevent me from being paid to pay our house. I have completed initial paperwork as soon as I was placed for Jenny Parker Manor and for Patak. I was placed at 34 one time and 64 at another time. Soon after I received that, I spoke to Kevin Redmond, which is not here, which I don't like to speak about somebody that's not here. And I asked him about all this, but they took into consideration my credit, and I guess past landlord dispute or whatever. And he said he would speak to somebody about it. I believe he spoke to you.
Yeah, I know Renee has all your files.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And with doing so, they did bring me down to, I believe it was 5 or 6 on the tax tower and number 1 on the Jenny Parker Manor area. Let's see what I'm at here. All right, the Housing Authority took into account my current disability. Now, maybe after the incident with Highlands Police, I was back up to Robert Woods. They made me come in there to see that I was competent to walk on my own, which is in violation of any handicap law. They should never take that into consideration. But, I still did. I didn't have a problem with that. I didn't need special help. My wife's always here. She's been under it for 40 years and always helped me all the way. I'll deal with that up there. After that was done, a criminal and landlord check was done. And Renee stated that both convictions, my wife and myself, my wife has never been convicted of a crime. I had many times when I was younger. I had a dispute maybe 2 or 3 years ago with Councilman to that, which is a minor dispute with somebody in town here, which I don't know, which to this day I still feel my innocence on that, but that was minute municipal ordinance, nothing big. And I'm not here. The landlord informed that the landlord in question, which is pushed back 3 years, stated a lot of facts against me. I know you're aware of this.
Right. And I don't want to cut you off. I know you're having a grievance process with the Housing Authority, correct?
I was told no, I'm not.
No, you're not. Okay. I wasn't sure if that happened or not. I didn't know if you filed a formal grievance. Because I'm not sure, other than us going to Renee and asking about your situation, I'm not sure how much we can do at this table right now.
I'm bringing it to your attention so you all know
and that's
what's
totally fine, and what I can do is,
I had went to Cologne, he advised me to do some other things that I really didn't want to do to the town. So I think I'd bring it to you people first, you know what I'm saying? I'm sure you read what was said about me in executive session.
No, actually, I haven't.
Well, I have a piece of
Yeah.
that paperwork, I don't know, you.
I wasn't at the last housing authority meeting.
Oh, you wasn't there? I
Yes,
apologize.
yeah, I wasn't, so I don't know what was discussed in executive or if they had executive.
But it's very discriminating, very discriminating. I was handed a copy of it after this was done in executive session, you know? Every time I went in to see Renee, she always had a bad attitude towards me. I don't know if it was my
Yeah, okay,
last
well,
name or whatnot or whatever.
Why don't we do this? Why don't we, can we talk offline? I'll give you my card, you can give me a call, and, you know, because I just want to make sure.
I don't have to read everything out here.
And if you want to give me your notes, I can go through it.
Thing and all that, I don't want this to become
Yeah.
that, you know?
So that's up to you. If you want to give me your notes, I can go through them and.
No, it would be
That's up to
better
you.
to speak in person.
Okay,
or
no,
have
yeah,
a
definitely.
chance, like, you know, Councilwoman Ryan did. like,
Yeah,
you know,
I spoke
she
to
had
some
some
council
chance.
member about this.
You know, it's not nice to be accused of things and not be
Absolutely.
able to defend yourself or see what this incriminating evidence is that
Right,
they have on us.
Okay, absolutely. Do you want, I can give you my phone number now, or you want Tara Ryan's, or?
I'll give
I know
you
Kevin is
both.
away.
Both,
Yeah.
both.
Yeah, I already spoke to another member on the board, I don't know if he wants me to say his name or not, but I did speak to other people on the board, also.
That was Mr. O'Neill, correct?
Huh?
Mr. O'Neill? Oh, okay.
From
Oh,
the
okay, I'm
council.
sorry, I thought you meant.
I'll give you my card in a few moments, okay?
There's a couple other issues too that I'd like to bring up on the town, one is Valley Street, which I know you're scheduled to put a whole new pipe down that street. But there's areas down there, like the steps, they're ready to fall over. And God forbid a kid gets down there, or something, whatnot, he's gonna get killed. That should be at least road ball, cone ball, to keep people from getting in there. I know you can't go in there and dig, that, you know, you might cause another problem, but something should be done to stop, you know, people from going near that area right there.
Okay.
And another thing is, what happened to the twin lights that were built for the sign here?
So sorry, now on Linden,
I helped build that, right?
on the sign on Linden,
Yeah.
it's still there, right?
No, the
No,
lights
it's not,
themselves.
the
The old-
banner sign,
the
that one
old-
didn't make it,
Yeah.
yeah.
The old
Very
lights
old.
themselves.
Cracked in half, and lights, the twin lights rotted, and we got it repaired twice, and it cost like over $5,000. The first repair was over 2,000 something, the second one was like $3,600, so at that point, we just have to cut our losses, it was split right down the
And they
middle.
look nice with the lights on there, and I just wonder whatever happened to them, you know? I was part of that project, I go there
They
one time.
basically rotted, they rotted.
Okay,
But
all right.
that's about it, and I appreciate you.
and here you go, there's our phone numbers right there. Okay? All right. Kim Skorka, 315 Shore Drive.
I have a quick question on the resolution about the additional funds for the master plan. Are we now exceeding the $100,000 that was approved for it?
No, the original authorization, I think, was 48, and then this goes, it adds another 12 to it, so it's about 60 right there.
Okay, but originally I thought we had budgeted $100,000. We're still coming in under that cap? Okay. Do you know when Short Drive when the paving is gonna start?
As soon as Pulte gets done hauling in all their material,
Do they have an estimated date?
within the next 2 weeks
Okay.
is what we're hearing, and the contractor's ready to go, but there's no sense of paving that road and then still, you know, rumbling dump trucks down there, so let's get them to get their material in, and then the road will be a quick hit,
Can
so.
we rush them a little faster, maybe give them
I would love
hours
to.
move the-
I would love to. We expressed the concerns, and then the gas company came in and had to do their work too. So they should be wrapping up next week or two. We have frequent conversations with them to try to get schedules and maintain along those lines.
Okay, and, do we have any guarantees from Tiltup that they're actually gonna come in and finish their work? Do we have a timeline from them?
And speaking to Mitch Blomquist today, that work's supposed to be taking place within the next 2 weeks. So they're mobilizing the contractors that volunteered and donated their resources to do that work.
Okay, and for the streetscape, for that residential area between the two business districts, I thought we were also gonna look into just the cost to repair the sidewalk. Replace sections that we replacing, grind down what we can grind down, fill in the holes where the trees were taken out. Do we have a cost estimate for that very much scaled back repair?
it's twofold. We have a unit price to, per square yard or whatever to take out and replace. However, under this current contract with that contractor, we can't add any more scope to his work outside of the area because they.
No, I understand this is.
Right, but no, I've got cost estimates done, like on a per square yard basis. So say we would have identified, say, 50 square yards, and it costs X. So we.
No, I understand the process to get to $1 million, and that would be it would look continuous. What I want to know is, can someone go in and fill in the holes where the trees?
No, I understand.
Grind down that
But I need a contractor to do that. And right now, the only one I have working is the guy doing the streetscape. I can't, EDA does not let me add that work to his contract, because I still have to pay him for that, obviously.
Right.
And it's beyond the scope of work that's in the grant.
So once he's done, we can have him.
I'd have to have another contractor do it. I couldn't even do that under the current contract with the borough.
Okay.
Because we wanted to add a grade pipe, and they wouldn't let us even do
Yeah,
that.
can we have someone come in and give us an estimate as to,
Can you
because,
identify that out?
again, I understand we want the borough to look nice, and I love it to be contiguous, we can't afford it. But can we at least fix the bumps and the holes? And I think that's what everybody kind of wants.
I'll be able to I'll follow up on that and see what
Okay,
no promise of local truck.
okay, thank you.
Alright. Anne Marie Tierney, 29 Shrewsbury Drive, Shrewsbury Avenue.
Hi, first of all, Tim, I'd like to thank you for acknowledging that the Tilda project could have been handled better. I really respect that you said that out loud. I understand that Tara is recusing herself for what sound like valid personal reasons, but I'm really disappointed, Becky, that you're the one who stood up on January 17th and said this was investigatory, it was non-binding, that you were going to investigate whether we wanted this or not, and then bring it back to interested parties. You said that on the video. A couple of hundred people of us have watched this, and yet you're not acknowledging in any way, shape, or form or explaining why you and the committee that you put together on this project never came back to the town, never discussed the site, never showed us proposed plans. We understand now it was in the works for a year. Why was this project handled so differently than the Moria project, where everyone got the chance to give input? I find it very disturbing that people seem to have taken it upon themselves to make a decision to put something on public land with no public input, and you're not acknowledging your role in any way, which I find really disturbing.
Well, I don't
I'll
think.
hold on, because I only have 3 minutes. My second question for Mr. Padula is there is a resolution, a package that does not match what the council discussed or approved. Are you saying that it's not your role as the borough attorney to let people know that they should be making an amendment to a resolution?
I don't draft the resolutions, they read the resolutions, and it's their responsibility to approve it. They actually read them twice. They get them in their packet, and then they approve the minutes.
So you sit there with the packet and you look at a resolution, and it doesn't match what's voted on or discussed, and it's not part of your job?
It doesn't match what Mr. Carr discussed, what
No,
his position
I
was.
listened to
Maybe
it.
it matches what the other 4 of them
No,
thought.
we all listened to the tape. That's not what happened. It was very clearly said it's not amending. It was very clearly said it's investigatory, and that's the diametric opposite of what the resolution states. So from a legal point of view, the resolution is invalid, and I'm just wondering, you're the council to our town. Is it not part of your role to make sure that our council's doing things in a legal and appropriate fashion?
It is my role to make sure they do things legally. It's not my job to second guess what they approve, which is what you're asking me to do.
You sat there and listened to a discussion that didn't match the resolution.
And not one of them said, this doesn't match what was approved. Not once, but twice.
I've seen you in other situations say, this is going to need an amendment. You didn't say that in this case. Is that not your job?
It wasn't said.
You said it. You didn't say it here. Is it you telling these public people we pay your salary? Are you telling us it's not your job to
I
make
didn't
sure
say
that
that.
what's voted on is what's reflected?
I did not say that. I didn't say it here, in the situation.
That's my point. You said it in other situations. You
Okay.
acknowledged that resolutions need to be amended,
Okay, your point is made.
and you didn't do that here. My question is that part of your
I
understanding of
answered
your
that
job?
question already. You've asked it 3 times, and I answered it.
I think, go back to work, I mean, honestly, we did state it was exploratory, and the subcommittee did explore numerous sites. There were sites.
I think by February, Tilton states that they were told in February that the site would be the beach. That's weeks after you came and you said that you're going to come back and let us know what was going on. And you had had 2 or 3 meetings before this. I mean, I've done an Oprah request, so obviously we're gonna find out what happened, but why did you make a decision not to follow the process we followed for the Maury project, for this project? I just wanna understand that.
I don't know which project you're referring to when
The
you say.
Maury project in Veterans Park, where there were multiple presentations, multiple meetings.
I don't want to dispute what your recollection is of that, but the memorial statues appeared one day.
Yeah, they did.
That's the truth, and I'm not trying to put you on, I don't want to debate that point, but the memorial statues, I was on the road on the way to Trenton many years ago when I got this call as the recreation person, that these statues were coming that afternoon. There was no, so I don't want to mix that up, it has nothing to do with this project.
Meetings where it was discussed and the veterans were saying they did not want the project in the park.
That was much after.
That was
Well,
later.
let's just.
But anyway, going back to this project, I'd like to understand why standard process for getting signatures was not followed in this situation.
Because honestly, and I will be honest, it should have probably come back. The fact that it was in an existing footprint, it was, you know what I mean? We weren't, in my opinion, drastically changing anything, in my opinion. And that's just mine. I looked at it as, and not that it
Wait a minute, I got my wife on here, I said I want to do my, I've requested this information, so I'll submit that, so I don't speak uneducated about the issue, and I'm hoping you guys get that information to me. But you can honestly sit here and say that is not change the footprint or scale of what was there versus what is there. What was there?
It was a hill.
Right, and that's, the public has a right, it's public property, I believe it's open street property. And the public had no input. I, as a governing body member, did not have any input. I have a major problem with that. Unfortunately, the magnitude of the artist, the guy, I mean, there's some talent there. Nobody's disputing that, I don't think. What people are disputing here, Becky, straight out, is the procedure from start to finish. How did, and lack of words, it feels like the community has been bamboozled. Okay? It was one of those backroom conversations, we're gonna do this, and all of a sudden, because my preliminary investigation, I was told the site was picked before Tilt Up was officially invited to the town. Tilt Up was told they were putting it here. Were they really consulted on what would be the best location? Now, I'm hoping you guys can show me ample notes, ample meetings, and ample discussions that I can look at people in this community and say, yes, our governing body did due diligence. But it's hard for me to believe that actually happened. Because the speed in which it happened. And the lack of communication, because if it was something that was confident and up and up, you would have been proud to share with the community. You would have been a lack of transparency. There would be more transparency to the community, and it didn't happen. And again, I'm reserving my right to let me do my investigation. That may turn around and say, well, they did 100% by vote, and I will support that. But everything tells me it's not.
There's no legally binding resolution by our town council for this project to go forward. So at a very minimum, that doesn't exist.
I'm not aware of a resolution that authorized that site or the building of that
Correct.
project.
There's never been a conversation in any public record about the site. Tim had notes about Tilt Up in his report, but it wasn't discussed in the meeting in June. So again, I mean, I know that you're acknowledging it could have been handled differently, but it's public land. This is our beach. And a limited number of people made a decision to put something on our beach that may or may not be visually appealing to all of us. Some of us love it, some of us don't. But I'm questioning the process because, you know, this should not be happening. You guys don't have the right to do things like this without our input or a legally binding resolution. You don't have the authority to do that. Very disturbing.
Barbara Iannucci, 28 Shrewsbury Avenue.
I have a few issues I want to bring up on the TNN. The additional cost for the phase 1 of the reexamination process for the master plan. Now that was fitted out. I'm sure there was a scope of the project. have you identified what part, where we missed the connecting dot from what our scope was for a reexamination and what they actually, we had 3 bids, they were the middle one. I mean, what did we miss writing up our bid? Something was missing there, but then to come back to need additional 12,000, we didn't.
I believe the planning board made a recommendation for additional services.
And so now it was just
Is that
approved.
correct?
I believe so. I don't go to the board meetings, I believe that's what it
In
is.
terms of additional work that was
Andrew
needed?
Stockton's in the audience if you want.
I'm here, Andrew Stockton, I'm the planning board chairman, and
I haven't really talked to
the
you.
original budget that T&M prepared that was approved had a set number of meetings in there for their attendance at our committee meetings for going through the process. They've used them up and they need to attend more meetings because we're not done with the process. And this is an extra work proposal for those meetings.
All right, well, I even have a stronger opposition to just saying, okay, we're gonna write it out, because I attended at least 70% of those meetings, and there were times when there was more public present than committee. And for us to have to do another bill because our own committee doesn't show up at meetings and can't get the work done, and then every meeting is a do-over of the topics discussed before, I don't want to start paying. I mean, that's a sidewalk in my book. So I think we should
There's
scrutinize
inconsistencies
that.
with that statement right there. T&M hasn't been present at every single one of the committee meetings. They've been invited to the important meetings that need their attention. They've used up their important meeting time, and this is, again, it's for extra meetings for, for them.
Well, then also moving on to phase 2, you're doing a zoning ordinance amendment, rewrites, whatever, based on phase 1 examination. Have we gone to the DCA for the secondary part of the grant that they did have for that process? I know we
We're
filed
going to be requesting additional funds for any and all
for
work under
each
the-
phase as we go.
Yes.
Right, so they're getting submitted as we speak, because they're pretty close to the next phase.
We're working with DCA on that every day. We're in contact with them. So we're going to be submitting more and more. Everything that we come up with that we can submit and go into the system, we're going to be working on that.
And perhaps some of the requested docs are for phase 2, maybe you might have already can get reimbursed for something you're charging extra for. But that was just with T&M. And also, regarding the tilt-up, I was at the meeting that was discussed. I've listened to the video many, many times, and I think we can all admit that there is a major disconnect, and public caught it. So we have to deal with it moving forward. I do want to ask you now, I mean, I got more information about a lawsuit and slander than I did about the process. How did you choose the location?
Actually, it was, and Mr. Hill met with the team in quite a few different locations. They had brought up Veterans Park, they had brought up Putty Park, they had brought up Steinways up on the hill. They had brought up multiple locations, and I know Mr. Hill did go with them.
I was present at site visits at all those locations, so for someone to say or assume that the site was selected long before Tilt-Up got here, that's not accurate.
Well, the architect directly told me in February the site was already chosen.
And the architect was not correct.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I can assure you that.
Okay. Well, he's the one that had to pull off all these plans and have them done by in October 1.
I'm not going to dispute that,
Okay.
but the architect, are you talking about the taller gentleman?
Yes.
Okay, he wasn't even present during that time.
Well, they knew, okay, they were told the
Okay.
site was located by February, and they better get their ass moving, so we have an October 1 deadline.
Well, they knew the October 1 deadline. We knew that last year. Their conference and the convention was coming into New Jersey in October or September of 2015. And that deadline of October 1st was what they came up with, and we were aware of that last year.
Okay, well, that would have been nice to have come off with the only resolution on the books related to this. Yeah, I mean, I know you have a question asked, question answered. If we don't ask, we don't get information. But throw out some more information out there when you know you're at that topic of discussion in a public meeting. I mean, we would appreciate that as taxpayers. But also, I want to know, in that meeting, you also said you would notify all the interested parties. Who have you identified as interested parties for this project? Was the public one of them? Or was it just Hilltop and the 3 subcommittees? Who were the actual interested parties that you knew you need to had to reach out to once the resolution was approved? Anybody know? No?
I don't know what you're referring to, if you're going verbatim, you're going verbatim on the resolution.
Okay, no, it was a statement Ms. Kay well said. Of course, we will notify all interested parties, and this is just for an engagement, nothing binding. Everybody echoed it, and everyone said, well, in that matter, we'll move forward. But you must have known there were interested parties for you to have said it. I'm just curious as to who they were in your mind at that time.
In my mind, at that time, I'll have to say, I would have assumed, we should have come back and done it in front of the mayor, the council, and the borough. I'm not gonna sit here and not take blame for the lack of communication on the project. Well, I'm just telling you, it's identified. I think some of, and I'm just speaking personally, and everybody will hem and haw, and everybody will, I already know. And I'm okay with it, because I think in the end, we'll get through it. We're learning a valuable lesson on communicating things. I'm just saying,
I don't think you communicate.
I have a problem with that statement. People get fired for making decisions like that. Listen, this community, I'm now in Long Island, I believe the community was blatantly lied to. Okay, thank you for telling me that the architect, I didn't hear the architect say that, but people get fired. You just wrecked an asset of our community without our community being aware of it. Because with all due respect, it's really, there's land use laws have been violated. No, I'm speaking, and then I'll give you back the floor. The land use laws were violated, okay, there was an association down there. Now, I can't verify, because I'm hoping the records will prove me, that the association did not sign off on it. Kevin Redmond did. Kevin Redmond is conflicted. He sits on the governing body. He should not have been, and according to people that came up to me, said the association's been defunct, there is no president, they had no meetings.
So they were the
Right. Therefore, even more of the essence of why everybody should have been notified by email or certified letter saying, we are going to damage your property. They have every right to turn around and sue us.
I wasn't aware that the property was damaged.
I'm sorry. So the whole time that the construction was going on down there, that you didn't go down there once and see what was going on down there, you can honestly say you never went down there. Yeah, so you knew that you know the property. The beach, private property there. They Hilltop Project Association used the private property and to build their project.
You're saying damage.
They did damage it.
What did they damage?
The sand, the beach. You don't have a right to touch my property. We don't have a right to touch anybody's property without permission.
And I will say,
without legal consent.
I'm not going to go back and forth on this.
Please produce the document giving legal consent for us to go on their property, and so forth. It's only for the beaches. The homeowners association, I
don't believe they pay taxes on that, and they haven't since the.
Irrelevant.
Well, that is irrelevant. They own it, they should be paying taxes on it. And they don't own it, then they shouldn't pay taxes.
Well, shame on us for not paying taxes on it. That's another whole problem.
Can I say one more question before all this? But Bruce Padula, we pay taxes on it, so just stop that line.
No, that's not fair, because his point was that it's private property. It's not private property.
If you're gonna turn this into a match between one part and the rest of the.
I'm not turning it into that, Ms.
Okay. Now, may I finish my last point? We have the Light Up Foundation. I heard that because it's post, we may not be able to bill them Because we weren't informed, we now have a cement slab on our beach. We have a problem here. As taxpayer, I don't want to pay a dime for a private or nonprofit organization deciding to use our town as their site, and for us to pay the overhead of their costs. And it was brought up before you signed the resolution, it was brought up that it would be discussed. Rick Horn said he would talk about it, and he would decide. We would rather not pay for it, but we'll pay for it. So if this town goes on and has the taxpayers pick up that tab versus fixing the sidewalk, you will have more than tilt up to deal with. I just want to put that on the record. And I think you better start getting business savvy, because bamboozled was used, and we are being bamboozled. And that's all I'm going to say.
Well, but I just want to respond to that Mr. Carr, Councilman Carr said that I said we can't go after them because after the fact. I did not say that in closed session.
Good, I hope not.
No, I didn't imply it.
Okay.
And I'm glad you admitted that I didn't say it, but you said that.
Because you know something, I'm not an attorney, excuse me, I'm not an attorney,
Yeah.
but I think.
All right, guys, this is executive. Let's just-
Not executive, with all due respect, we all sat here, and we told him he would get a bill. And I respect the letter of the conversation that I believe we should be giving him a bill. He should absolutely get a bill. But out of respect to the law, because I'm like, I don't know if we have it.
But what we said was that we cannot charge one group and not charge other groups like the St. Bernard's project. Right, that's what was said, that every group has to be treated the same. We can't pick and choose the groups we like and the people we don't like and charge some of them and not others. That's what was said in exactly.
And then obviously it's like, we need to build Rick Warren. Where's the motion?
Well, then have another executive session.
I'll put on the next agenda.
This is ridiculous.
Bill Eiler.
I'd like to pretend I'm new to town. I'm sitting among friends, and that's probably going to change pretty quickly, although I hope not, because like our opinion should be respected when it's different. I'm going to try to keep that in my head. And one of the things that amazed me about my re-entry into Highlands lately is every single person I've met, Tim Hill, Dale, Becky, Doug, have been supportive and helpful and hardworking. And I'm a little surprised right now in a week of bullying and respect issues that I feel like a lot of people in council are being bullied. Let's just say that I don't think anybody was handed a handbook on how to be a council person. I think a lot of people in this audience have a lot of critique, which is appropriate, but none of them has taken on this job and lived in it. And I think until you've done that, you need to stop beating on people for apologizing and not communicating in hindsight the way they could have. So at this point, I'm just wondering if we can't take all of the energy that seems to be focused on people who are part of a process that we're all part of, and say, can we do something more positive with it? Part of me says, there's a couple of phrases I like to live by. One is, it's neither bad nor good, but that what you think it is. It's kind of a Hamlet phrase. And if we treat this like it's the worst thing in the world, and we use phrases like our beach has been damaged, there's lawsuits, there's land use violations. I'm a land use attorney, I'm a little bit of a fan design, and I don't think any of those things have happened. I think we need to take a deep breath and look at the fact that we got a project that was given to us that maybe in everybody's busyness we forgot to communicate as thoroughly as possible about it to everybody that could have wanted communication. But part of communication is if you're not getting enough communication, you have to go get some. It's not something that's brought to your door, it's a two-way street. So if there's a complaint about it, look also to yourself and what you haven't done. I talked to people on the Arts Council who said, well, I was given an email that didn't have the right address in it. I felt that was deliberate. Someone else told me they were lying to me and they didn't because they wanted to get the sandy feather in their cap. I think that anybody that I know that seems connected with the project has had no malicious intent, no deliberate action, no nefarious plan. These are nice people, these are our neighbors, these are our friends, these are people who volunteer for this job. And frankly, I'm trying to do as best they can with that rule book. And people are putting them on the cross like I can't believe. And finally, let me just say this, I'm a little bit of a student of design. There's an architect named John Hicks. I've stayed in his houses, they're amazing. They're made of cement. I've been to the Young Museum in San Francisco a ton of times. I sat in that structure on the beach. It was like being inside an oyster. The colors were perfect, the view lines were perfect. My friend Rosemary, who lives on that street, hates that structure, hates the sun. I thought, what a perfect place for her to be on the beach in the shade and watch the ocean. It's phenomenal in so many ways. I hope that somebody here realizes that we got something good. And I want to say thank you to the council for letting it happen, and all 5 of you are equally responsible for it. So thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, I was the village motivation head, and I think even moving forward for myself, when I see that you know, the pavilion, I see it as a place where the arts have art shows, and we're actually hosting things. It's not a monument. To me, it's a multifunctional area that we've gained, that we couldn't do things on the beach before. You couldn't have a or a club couldn't meet out there. And I look at it as a way we could come together as a community. You know what? If the communication was poor, I apologize for that. I think, you know, the 5 of us up here run probably in different directions like the scarecrow every day. Who's going to a FEMA meeting? Who's doing this? Who's working a full-time job? Who's got kids? Who doesn't have kids? Who's doing this? And that's just really where it's at. I mean, I apologize for any communication or discourse. I hope that it becomes one of the best assets this community has, because I think we're lucky to be chosen.
In my last 10 seconds, if I have no reason to run it,
Go ahead.
let me conclude by saying it is in a town which I've lived in and worked in and owned in for 30 years, the #1 best, most positive thing I've seen happen in the past year. And we're making it turn into some sort of a shit show, excuse my French, on record. And we should. We should just be happy it's here and move on to the next project and figure out why we still have trailers on Shore Drive, and we can't seem to get another business in town that wants to open up, and why we can't fix streets. That's the stuff we should be focusing on.
Thank you.
Now, look.
Okay. Stacy Pritchard, 130A Bay Ave.
Yes, I agree that aesthetically, I think it's nice and that I think it will be a bonus. I disagree with a couple of things there. Being an artist myself, I actually think the structure is pretty nice. I'm not sure about the placing of the structure, and I have to say that I appreciate everybody standing up there and repeatedly saying, oh, we're sorry, we'll communicate better. But having been involved with a couple things myself and having watched a couple of things happening here in town directly, that line's getting old. And instead of just getting the, oh, we should have communicated better, I'd like to see a plan moving forward for how that's going to happen. It doesn't seem that, as Barbara indicated, we ever do really identify who people that are going to be interested in it is as a renter and not an actual homeowner. If I wasn't coming to meetings regularly, I would have no idea what was going on. Okay? And a lot of that is because I'm not on that roster of people that might be interested in finding out what's happening. I'm extremely happy, for instance, that my sidewalk is finally getting fixed. There's been a huge hole out right in front of my sidewalk since Irene, that 2 different businesses that were there asked repeatedly to allow them to repair it, and were repeatedly told they weren't allowed to. It's finally happening. I'm very happy about that. What I'm not happy about is that the only notification that I've gotten as to when I can't park there, which is my main parking because I live right there, was an orange sign put up from what it appears to be by the construction group itself. That there was no other communication as to when that construction was going to start, how long it's going to be going on, so that I don't have my primary parking. And I happen to have neighbors that I know don't have any back access into their apartments that are above that street. That their only access to their home is off of that sidewalk. And I'm wondering when they finally get around to pouring the concrete, what those poor couple of neighbors are going to do to get out of their houses. And I know I haven't been notified, so I doubt they've been notified. You might not have an answer for that right now, but my point is that we've heard we'll do better at communication, we'll do better at communication, we'll do better at communication. so many times now. That's the frustration here. You know, I happen to like the place, but even, or the oculi, you know, I think it looks beautiful, but even, you know, on the news report, it's quoting, and maybe it's hearsay, that the mayor's like, oh, well, maybe we'll commission some murals to go on the inside of it. No, that would be the most horrid thing that you could do to that structure, is allow somebody to go at it with a piece of paint. I mean, as an artist, I'm horrified that we would even entertain that idea. So the fact that our mayor doesn't even understand the project, and maybe that's hearsay, but to me, that comes down to the communication again. When are we going to get past the after the fact, sorry, we should have communicated better, and put in some plans to actually communicate better?
Dale, is the contractor going to provide notices?
Yeah, the contractor wants to provide notices up and down the street before things started, but they should also be providing it as they get to your place too. So I will address that in the morning. I can assure you that that's moving forward. That's not going to happen again.
Okay. Tom Reed, 7 Snug Harbor.
Yes, good evening, everybody. I'm with 7 Snug Harbor. I want to start out with some positives here. I want to compliment the chief and the police department. I've noticed the quality of lead improving over the last months. I compliment Dale on his lobbying of the government to get these new flood maps in place. And I just want to say, like New York, that was terrific. DPW cleaned the place up dynamite. I wasn't even there. Moving on to mayor and council, I'd like to compliment you on the rehab of the community center. Seems to be money well spent, aesthetically pleasing, pretty nice design. Looks as though, you know, future flooding was taken into consideration as the design of this, and I was pleasantly pleased with it. And I want to thank you for keeping this project open and communicated and transparent to the taxpayers and residents. Now I'd like to address the concrete structure on the beach and the lack of communication and non-transparency. Someone over here asked the interested parties, and no one was able to come up with a name or whatever. I want to bring up a couple interested parties. There's a retired couple directly across the street from that structure. And one of the problems with that structure is it's obtrusive. If someone would have looked at the design and said, maybe we put the 4 corner posts so as to have it open and free flowing and more aesthetically pleasing and livable for the area, these folks sit on their steps on the front porch every day they're retired. And they look at the water. Now, I'm walking by their house, how you doing? And the woman was visibly upset. How do you think I'm doing? Now I get to look at a concrete wall. Those are interested parties. Those are people who have been damaged. Their peace and their quality of life has been damaged. I mean, Michelangelo's David is a beautiful piece of art, but if it's right smack in front of your door and you can't see out the door and you can't see someone coming or going or whatever, you know, sometimes free isn't free. And it's disappointing to me that everyone has in this country, it's a beautiful thing, everyone has a right to their opinion, and we should respect each other's opinions, and we should be, principles should come before personalities, meaning I can disagree with your view, and you can disagree with mine, but we can still be civil to each other. But we also need the opportunity to voice our opinions. I need it. That this is going forward, this is the design, maybe we could have batted it around and said, okay, you want to put this monument on the beach, let's make it more aesthetically pleasing, meaning you could see through it. It's an eyesore. I'm sorry to say it, it could be a beautiful work of art, but if you can't see the water past it, which is our most precious asset, it's an eyesore. I'm here committed and saying to you that I will volunteer whatever for the Highlands to not only come back, but to come up better. And the only way for that to be is for all parties to be included. It can't be I have a good idea, I'm gonna do this, and I think it's a good idea for my neighbors, I'm not gonna tell them about it. You can't do that kind of stuff. It's thoroughly disappointing. And I talked to two women who were sobbing. They were sobbing to me. One woman kept saying, I didn't know this is what it was gonna be. I didn't know anything about this. I didn't know anything about this. They're sobbing. People are talking about selling their homes on the lot. It doesn't even affect me. I'm just here to support my neighbors who I see in pain. Not only upset, but in pain. Tim says it's not done, and as an artistic endeavor, that's fine and good. 17 years ago, we heard the wall wasn't done. And there was going to be landscaping and raised platforms and walkways so it would all be accessible. I mean, this is 17 years ago, probably nobody up there was up there then, but that didn't come to fruition either. And I'm thinking no matter what we do, it may become really beautiful, and we spent good money on that community center. And I was looking forward to folks saying you were going to rent it and have weddings and affairs here. We had my brother's 60th birthday party here. Had that wall been in front of the view, we wouldn't have rented it. And I think we took away an asset, i.e. the new community center, to bring people into our community, expose them to our community. I don't think you're going to see people rent that community center for a wedding. They have to look into a concrete wall. It's very upsetting, and you know, the loss of the view not only to the residents but the community center. It's not my problem. It's really not. It doesn't affect me other than, you know, this gentleman thinks it's beautiful, this woman thinks it's beautiful, and I believe they're genuine and believe that. I don't have an artistic eye. I'm not musical. I'm not artistic. I see 4 walls of concrete where once was a pavilion. And I heard this was going to happen. I heard that they were replacing the pavilion. That's all I heard. I said, terrific. You know, maybe a similar thing, bigger, more benches. People could get out of the sun. They could get out of the weather. They could have picnics, and it would be flowing through. Another thing, it liberated the volleyball court. There was a whole group of young folks from actually North Jersey and Manhattan that would travel all the way to the Highlands to play volleyball on that beach. And all those folks ain't coming back. I mean, we wouldn't be sitting here today if we took the simple steps of saying, hey, this is what we think we're doing. What do you think? And if it was voted on and I didn't like it, I could live with that, because that's what America's about. You know, it's a democracy, it's a republic. This is what we'd like to do. Everyone vote on it, I would support it. But I would have liked, and I think a lot of other people would have liked to say, hey, I like it. Hey, I don't like it. Let's get a consensus and see where we move forward. Instead of, and I'm not accusing anybody, but instead of certain folks or whoever did it, I don't know, saying, yeah, that looks good, I like it, and I want it here. It's not the way it works, it's not the way it should work, anyway. And in the beginning of the meeting, I seen resolutions being voted on, yea or nay. I think this question was answered. No, I'd like to know when, in what specific meeting this resolution was passed, at a yea or nay vote, who abstained, and who said yes, who said no, as to this is what we're going to do, this is the design, this is where it's going to go. So who specifically made the decision for the location, the design? I would think that more people should be involved. And once again, me, my wife, and my family are committed and invested in this town to come back and come up. But come on, you know, give everybody a chance. Whether they agree with me, they agree with this person. And I could live with a majority saying, this is what we're going to do. That's the way we do it in this country. But I think that whole process, the whole due diligence was omitted, and it's disappointing. It's still disappointing.
Okay, thank you.
Not just to me. People were just, I was there for the last 4 days of construction, and not one person did I hear come to me and say, I really like this. They may have been there, but I'm thinking the people that were upset were the most vocal. Two women were stop.
Yeah, Mr. Reed, we're gonna have to just, there's a lot of people that, it's okay, no worries. I know people are very, passionate about the issue, so I don't wanna keep it to 3 minutes, but we also have a few more people that need to speak, so Mary Saltman, 43 Snug Harbor.
Mary Salzman.
Sorry.
That's okay. The idea that this is a personal attack, I don't feel like there's a personal attack here. I don't really even know you guys. I've owned my house on Snug Harbor Avenue for 17 years. It's the finest thing I've ever done, except for having a child. And you've taken away 30% of the view that I had on my deck. I will now be looking at a cement wall. The issue isn't, it's not me personally, it's really the community. We've all raised our kids on that beach, and they'll all be looking at cement too. And I just don't understand how it's possible to put 550,000 pounds of concrete and on the beach and not have talked about it. Were there any DEP investigations? My understanding, and I'm not all that knowledgeable about this, but my understanding is when Tim wanted to put a walkway from the community center onto the beach, that the DEP needed to be involved. It's hard for me to understand how it was possible to do all of that construction, and to the best of my knowledge, and I also filed a request, there was no contact, no zoning requirement, none of that was necessary. The idea of looking out your door one day and finding the entire beach roped off with gravel there, and everyone saying, well, what's going on at the beach? What's going on at the beach? And then finding that all of a sudden there's 15-foot walls there. It boggles my mind. In addition, I really do feel like you've taken away, and as a practical matter, you've really taken away part of the value, a big part of the value of my house, and that's even a bigger, that's a financial issue. And I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. It's just, okay, so here's the other thing. Whether you feel strongly, there was obviously a picture posted, a beautiful photograph of the structure taken at night. And there are obviously some really lovely things about the way that one can photograph it, for example, or a way that, maybe you can see the sky through it. And people are talking about, well, give it a chance because, we'll make it into something beautiful. Well, two things about that. 17 years ago, that was the exact same thing that they said about the wall, about the other free gift that was taken. All of the metal from whatever it is that the wall is made of. And as Tom said, they promised it was going to look beautiful. That never ever happened. But in that case, there were town council meetings, and this is when I was first introduced to this community.
I'm talking about the wall on Marine Place.
I'm sorry?
You're talking about the wall on Marine Place?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The wall that was done by the Army Corps. Yes, it was wood when we bought our house. It became steel and very high. I wouldn't walk down the street for 2 years after that, but nevertheless, I had never in my life heard people talk to each other like that. And what I'm really pleased about here is at least this is quite civil. But the point is that was an open hearing, and the town government went ahead and did what it wanted anyway. But we didn't even have a chance. My only last point is that when people talk about how we have to give it a chance and it's going to look lovely and people will come to love it, you've given kids a place to go and hang out behind a wall. You've got a beautiful bench made of some very fine, beautiful wood that someone is going to change their child's diaper on. Before long, I called the police 2 weeks before we left, because there was graffiti on the bulkhead. It's going to take 10 minutes before that thing has graffiti all over it, before other things are going on inside of it. You can talk to anybody who lives along that beach and know what goes on there in the middle of the night. So what I'm saying is that even if we were to give it a chance and it was Shangri-La, we don't live in Shangri-La. This is not Shangri-La, and things are going to happen to it that are going to prevent it from being utilized in the way that you might have thought it would. And I guess
my only question, if I could raise it, is really, was there any point along the way where any of you really questioned the idea that we can do this and not involve the rest of the community? Was there any point at where you just said, gosh, you know, I don't really know. I mean, this is a famous architect and this is really great, but maybe people might have a different view of what the beach should look like. That's all I have.
It wasn't for that wall, we wouldn't have a house. Thank God the wall was there.
Okay, Carol Leon, 12 Miller Street.
Okay. Is there any town ordinance that says that there needs to be public discussion when anything is placed on public land? And I'm looking at you because I would imagine.
Not that I'm aware of.
Not that you're aware.
I mean, it's the big code book, but.
Isn't there a capital review for projects the planning board has to review?
There may be.
Okay.
You were on the planning board, right?
Yes, I believe there is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, if you know, say it. Don't ask it as a question.
So you're saying that there is?
There's typically a process.
Okay, no, I understand that there's a process because I've seen it happen in many other processes with many other projects. All right, I'm going to leave that one alone for right now because I have two other things that I need to go on to and everybody else is speaking to tilt up. I'm just shocked that there was no public involvement in this, and I will leave it at that. The additional $12,500 for T&M that was stated was needed because they need to attend more meetings. When was it decided how many meetings that they were going to go to? And didn't you guys already have the outline structure of how many meetings you were going to need when you first did a $48,000? Because 25% additional is a gigantic number. That somebody didn't see something right, and I just want to know how that cost can be justified.
Carolyn, I wouldn't be able to answer that because, like I said, I'm not involved with the master plan or at the board.
Andrew left.
Andrew left.
Yeah, Andrew's already.
I can certainly get you an answer.
I would really appreciate it.
Yeah, I can certainly get you an answer on that. I have no issue doing so. But just for me to, like I would normally talk about a capital project that I'm well versed in, I'm not well versed in what transpired at the master plan or the planning board meetings.
Okay.
So I can certainly get you an answer.
Okay, last question. And I brought this up in a couple of meetings, and these are homes that has nothing to do with the latest PPPR. Homes that have been abandoned before Sandy, some for 20 years, 25 years, 15 years. What is being done? Are these people being notified? Are there being tickets written? There are more critters moving in on Miller Street at 36 Miller. There's like a whole zoo in there. You could probably call Popcorn Zoo and have them take a couple of animals there. But it's getting outrageous and out of control. And there's also another building. I don't remember its address off the top of my head, but it's on 5th Street. 27 5th Street. That's been
abandoned since 2006.
There you go. But now some kind of critter has gotten in there, so even though it's boarded up on some sides, now that's boards down, and there's all sorts of shenanigans going on in there. So there's animals that are in there, there's unsavory people that are going in these buildings, and I just need to know that something is happening. Because I keep on bringing it up, and I feel like I'm saying the exact same thing over and over again, and we're looking into it. Is it really something I want to hear?
Okay, well, what I'll do is I can
So there's no
reach out
answer.
to, I can reach out to Mr. Mercado on the specialized addresses that you have, to give you an update on those two.
Okay.
And then if you want, I can ask him, or we can even have him come in and do a presentation.
I'll make a plan for those buildings to have Mercado be
Right.
with.
And he may be working on them, I just don't know.
Well, you do that other resolution.
Emery, Bill, excuse me, I'm Charles, thank you.
Another thing that was brought up and discussed was that, we didn't have the manpower or the salaries or whatever to go around and actually identify buildings. Like, I didn't know the number was 27 5th Street.
Right.
But because I live on 5th Street, and I live on Highlands Street, so I know that 36 Miller has been abandoned by for 25 years because Michael Feldman likes to tell me all the time because it's really getting bad.
Right.
There's a fire escape that's coming off the side of the house that's gonna come on to his house. There's kids all over the street. It's a dangerous situation.
Okay, well, let us,
So could-
check in with Mr.
If he
Mercado.
does not have that time, we could photograph, address, give it to him.
Well, you can always.
Just as a
Yeah.
proactive approach.
Yeah, if you want, you can also do that, email it to me, I can get it to him just in case in the interim, but we may find out he's already ticketing or working on it.
Right.
I just don't know right now.
If you can find out just for the
Yeah.
start on those two properties, that would be outstanding. And a great place to start.
Mr. Hill did allude to that we are aggressively, in the near future, going to have a full-time code enforcement, and that conversation, I know I've had with Mr. Mercado, or whoever it's going to be, and he has that in his mindset, and is in a full-time position, is going to be able to address that, and I believe they're working with the police department, so when the police officers see the critters, or whatever, they're forwarding that information, so proper things can be addressed. But again, it's a process, and
I know it's
It's
a
a time
process,
thing.
and a lot of people talk about code enforcement, but I'm tired of people talking about code enforcement.
Knock it down.
Yeah.
Which-
Well, that's,
All
right, guys.
stuff
Let's
that's
just
happening.
keep order, we're almost.
Becky, I do appreciate it if you could let
Not a
me know.
problem.
Awesome.
Just 20 seconds on that same subject. When we were talking about the grants to bring
Yeah,
down the.
are you signed up to speak?
I'm sorry, I'm not.
I just want to keep order because it's getting late and everybody's trying to listen up here too, so it makes it difficult. Okay, John Commissar, 1 Miller Street?
Yeah, I just wanted to go back and revisit the Mindful Fitness festival that happened. I was a ticket holder as well as ended up being a volunteer for the entire weekend. I have organized better family buffets. As far as traffic flow, septic tank is empty before the guests all show up. I was amazed. I just couldn't believe something like this that was promoted the way that it was ended up being what it was. It was a huge loss, I think, for the town and for the organization. I'm going to lay blame squarely on Rick Horn. I can't even, my mind doesn't even work that way. Things went out the window. Kids came to the beach, there was no bathrooms, there was no picnic tables. They had bathrooms at Huddy Park, they were zip tied. It just amazed me. And if we're going to have this resolution or the ordinance as far as people coming into town and doing these things, permits, protocols, no media or advertising should occur until the event is approved by the governing body. It just, everybody got all excited and you guys were stuck last minute trying to do something. And then once you voted on it, nobody was behind it and promoting it. I thought that was kind of sad also. If you're going to vote on it and say, okay, then get behind it and back it up. This, I think, was just a great loss for the town. And I hope he can be built.
My position is, my position will be built. I'll put on the next agenda requesting that he be built. Whether I get the votes to do that, I don't know. And I'm offended by Rick Horn in an email to me stating Highlands failed him. And as a councilman, on my behalf, I defended myself and this town. How dare he blame the town for the failure this year?
I think the entire governing body, the police force, the DPW, everybody did everything in their power to help make it a success. Even our townspeople came out, they volunteered like yourself to help him. And not him, I want to say the organization, so I don't like to say it to one person. But I don't think the intent of this table was to have failure. I think the intent of this table was, wow, all these people doing great things, and even when I read it, it really did have potential. So I think we're all on board here, and I think if we work forward to come up with an ordinance, that way we do recoup some of our services, because we really do spend a lot in services. PD's high, but it's also collecting trash and bringing in, putting out barricades. I mean, it's endless, and And it's something that should be on
Same
the
agenda
agenda.
coming into town, what to expect, how long it's gonna take to meet with the police department to get that set up. How long it's gonna,
Absolutely.
Johnny on the spot coming in, what time is the food market? What do we call it?
Farm market.
Yeah.
What time is that, so we can set up for Lollapalooza? All those things need to be scheduled out, and there was like nothing. The event staff themselves that were not part of him were awesome, they tried their best. And everybody else around it really kind of pushed things up to a level that it really didn't belong at. I mean, it should have been higher, but it was just kind of a miracle by people pushing through and. Sorry,
Thank you.
that's it, they're just disorganization.
Okay. Carol Bucko, 330 Shore Drive.
Okay, I'm not gonna beat up the tilt up project, but I just wanna say two things about it. You used to be able to see the water from the community center, and now you can't apparently. I haven't been down there, I just looked at the pictures in the paper, but I got more calls than Timmy did. About the project. You said six, I got 10. I've had it down there. And I don't understand the thinking of erecting a memorial to something that nearly destroyed the town and you don't ever get anything back from the government or anybody else. But my own personal problem is after Sandy, the town brought down front-end loaders and stuff, and they put a little berm on the Madison Street beach. The little berm has washed out, and so has our bulkhead, and so has the land behind our bulkhead. The bulkhead is our responsibility, of course, and it never happened before, but the berm never came over that far either. So, but it did help keep some of the water out. So what I'm asking is if we can get that, just the DPW somebody down to build up that little berm again, just to help us, because the tides, we had 40 feet of land there years ago, and now we have 0. The water is up to the bulkhead on the north side of our property. And we had 40 feet at least of land there. I lost my pictures to a previous engineering company because they were gonna look at them, and then they disappeared and they never came back. Anyway, I just want to know if somebody can do something about getting that berm put back
Tim,
up.
is that something?
And also, we can't even get sand on our beach without the DEP and CAF getting involved. So you built the whole project on a beach without getting the DEP and CAF involved. Not my problem, your problem right now.
Well, I can answer to that, I was told.
And suddenly-
I know the DEP, we did, Paul validated we do have the DEP letter. So the DEP, tilt up, did do their homework, they did do things right, they didn't work elusive, that elusive. Yeah.
Whatever. You know, suddenly in the minutes and suddenly all over the place, it's becoming Hurricane Sandy. We can't call it Hurricane Sandy, it was not a hurricane. Because the hurricane, the flood insurance is worse with a hurricane than it is with a superstorm. So you have to get off the hurricane. That's the other thing. What are you doing about supporting the flood officer's letter?
Well, we tabled that this evening. We tabled that this
I can
evening.
explain that. if you want.
But Dale can explain it.
Well, I was shifted to the back because I was a little late and I couldn't hear anything. But that's all right. Okay, you're not doing anything about that. Now, could somebody explain to me, we have a grant writer, you said, Becky?
We do.
And if we have a grant writer, why is the grant writer not prepared to write the grant that's due October 20th?
And I'll let
Yeah, Carol, normally we would handle that because it's more of an engineering thing. The whole thing is a narrative on how a road has failed. It's an estimate, it's photos of deterioration, it's a proposed fix. So normally a grant writing consultant wouldn't be able to handle that.
So what is a grant writer for?
Grant writers there's many other grants in town to deal with. Whether it's administrative, it doesn't necessarily have to involve a capital improvement. It could be administrative, it could be something residential, it could be something for the police department, it could be whatever. But like a DOT grant, normally we would handle that.
Well, you know, maybe you ought to get in touch with the grant writer and do it together and then be on time. You know, you're a little behind on COVID money.
Oh, right, listen,
All right, Carol, we'll have-
you can't write for what you know, for what you don't have, you write one for every road.
Did somebody explain to me resolution 15198? Reducing the,
Reduction of
performance
performance
guarantee.
guarantees, I have to say Carol, or?
That's the engineering.
Oh.
Was that the, that might
Performance bond.
that might have been CPS.
Went from like, 800,000 to 100,000?
Hold on. Yeah, this is for the CPS property. So basically, when they go out to build a project, they have to put a performance bond in place. Well, the project's built. So basically what you do is they ask for a bond reduction. So you go out and you look at the improvements and you can reduce the bond accordingly.
Okay, I understand that, that wasn't clear to me before. Shared services, the DPW space and the sewer plant, we brought up those two things when we talked about shared services. And I caution you again to sharing services with Seabright, because we lose every time we share services with Seabright. We shared that the garbage pickup, we lost. They got bulk pickup every week, we got none. So, you know, be careful, that's all I'm saying. I think that's all I have.
Okay, Carol, we'll have Tim follow up with the DPW to see if there's anything we can do to help you with your firm.
I could go longer on the tilt road.
We're gonna parlay right from you to Carlos to follow.
There you go.
I just want to thank Mr. Hill for since the last council meeting when we were complaining about the water leaking down, and I've been getting a lot of calls from the businesses on Waterwich Avenue. We had a difficult time, you know, during the Twin Lakes ride and everybody having to sweep it, and then, you know, the dirt and stuff getting in the stores. So it was done, I guess. Mr. Hill told me it would be done by the end of the week, and from what I understand, it was finished today.
Do you believe it?
Yeah, so I just want to thank you and.
Well, there was a lot, it took more than 2 hours, there was a lot of investigation and what we did reach back into the archives of a former employee to get some additional information, and that helped tremendously. But there still is, as you know, that hill is saturated, so hopefully we can keep that draining properly.
Thank you. I know all of you work very hard personally having projects with each council member, and I don't really know a lot about the tilt up, which was kind of surprising that I didn't know something. But I just want to say, for whatever happened, you know, personally, all of you work really hard. I personally work with all of you, including Mr. Hill, on a lot of projects. Doug, Becky, Tara, Kevin, I just really want to say that whatever happens, you guys need to somehow, I mean, I agree with what Bill said, you know, whether it's bullying or not, or whatever happened, I really don't know, but each of you work really hard, and I do appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul. Okay, Dave Toro, 47 South Bay. He's in the back, so I'm just still here. Okay, and close out tonight, Melissa Pedersen, 17 Bay Street.
Yeah, I wanted to, when I was looking through the meeting notes, and I wanted to see if you could somehow strike on the minutes for June 17, 2015. On Mr. Hill's report, it kind of lists the report out on everything he spoke of, and it says that he mentioned and he spoke about the tilt up when he did not. The 4 things in his report was on the DCA and 36 eligible properties, the meeting with the FEMA reps, meeting with the Army Corps of Engineers, and how New Jersey Gas was going to inspect 550 homes. So I'm assuming it was on his written report, which he handed probably over and it made it into the minutes, but it wasn't actually discussed. And since the minutes is a legal document and it wasn't necessarily discussed, I'm assuming that it was an oversight, but if we can just strike it from the record.
It's up to the governing body.
For the record,
That's the law, Anne Marie. You want to be sarcastic and smart.
Advise your client. That's what.
If they want to change the minutes, they have the right to change the minutes.
Let Melissa finish.
I don't want to suggest they do it. That's up to them.
I just want to let you know, I do a written report, and oftentimes I don't hit on every topic, okay? So it's not done maliciously, the timing of the evening, whatever's going on, I do the borough administrator's report, and sometimes I've been accused of taking too much time. So there's no apologies on that, but I just want you to know, if they want to go through the minutes and strike out everything that I might not have said, that's up to the governing body to decide to do that.
Are they attached usually to here?
Not to
For the
that
public?
particular document, no.
That might be.
Okay, Barb. Melissa, anything else?
That's it.
Motion to adjourn? Okay, I'll second.
All in favor?
Hey, Robin.